In this edition of It's About Money, we'll be talking to representatives of the Women's Foundation of the Genesee Valley, talking about what Susan B. Anthony said, a woman must have a purse of her own. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to another edition of It's About Money. I'm Nannette Nocon. Thank you for joining us. In today's program of It's About Money, we'll be talking to Kathryn Thomas and Christina Fenton of the Women's Foundation of the Genesee Valley. Thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate having you both.
Delightful to be here.
Thank you. Kathryn, tell me about the Women's Foundation. How did it get its start?
Well, the Women's Foundation was started in 1994 by some, I guess, very brave women, 9 of them, that felt that women needed to have a purse of their own, which Susan B. Anthony always said, and that money could actually change the lives of women and girls. They also wanted to be able to control how that money was given away and how it would be supported for women and girls, so the foundation had its beginning.
That's great. So it's really a relatively new organization.
Yes, it is.
It sounds like it's done a lot from at least what I have read. What is the foundation's current mission?
Its current mission is economic self-sufficiency for women and girls.
All right. Now tell me about the women who started the program. 9 brave women. Were they of different age ranges when they started it? What different backgrounds? It's a wonderful idea to come together and really realize that financial independence is so important for women.
They were a group of diverse women that were not necessarily all of them women of means, some of them were. And they began the foundation with the idea that every woman could be a philanthropist, no matter how much money they made or how little they made. All of us have that ability. And again, it goes back to economic self-sufficiency for women and girls. And I think it's very important to recognize, I think intuitively women have always known that women are the ones that suffer economically. So we did a research study that was funded by a variety of organizations back a few years ago, and that research confirmed what we intuitively knew. So our mission over those since 1994 has not changed at all, and I'm proud of the fact that it hasn't changed and that we continue to fund programs that help women and girls.
I like the idea of the philanthropy, you know, just economic independence, because the more you give, really the more you have, and the more, you know, the more it can better the community, the environment, particularly here in Rochester. So you're a volunteer. You're the co-chair of the Voices of Experience, Tina.
Yes.
What got you interested in becoming a volunteer for the Women's Foundation?
I've always been a supporter of putting role models, positive role models, in front of girls, young girls, having the influence, positive influence on their life early, so that they can make some good choices before it gets to the critical point where choices really have to be made without a good influence on them. So when I heard about this project, I was eager to get started on it, and I got appointed co-chair of the Voices of Experience Committee this year, which has been a great asset to my life, and I've met so many wonderful people, but I think the project is what really drew me in.
Oh, that's terrific. How about you, Kathryn? What got you involved, and how long have you been a part of the foundation?
Well, I've been on the board for 4 years, and what brought me to that is I too had the experience of economic crises in my life at various points, and I have always felt that women really needed to have choices where they could make in order to be economically self-sufficient. A few years ago I was asked to chair the project called Women on the Move, which was an outgrowth of our research project that would take women that are no longer receiving any kind of benefits, that have a job, but are not economically self-sufficient, And when I say economically self-sufficient, a woman with 2 children needs to make at least $26,000 in order to be economically self-sufficient. And that is not how our government or most of our society look at how being economically self-sufficient, what that figure needs to be. So I became involved in the project and really have felt more strongly that this Women's Foundation movement, because it is a movement across the entire globe, that we take care of one another. And here I am, board chair. Who would have guessed?
Oh, that's lovely. Actually, just interesting to say that. I'll share my own experience. I grew up with 3 siblings, well, actually 4 siblings, but 3 are girls. And my mom became a widow at age 34. So the economic independence was not quite there when my father passed away and left my mother as a widow at such an early age. And it's so important to think about what it means for us girls, for my sisters and I, to make sure that we're prepared for something like that may happen. We hope not, but you know, my mother's doing well now, but it was quite a struggle at 34, having 5 children to raise on her own. So, but anyways, now I want to talk about Voices of Experience. So tell me about that.
It's a wonderful opportunity for girls around age 12 to 18. It's an event that we hold once a year. And it started in 1997 to continue this idea of promoting economic self-sufficiency, but putting that seed in their thinking early. So the program involves 2 parts. There's a panel discussion from some area women who have been successful and have been selected by our committee to be panelists, and then an open mic session where the girls can have some very frank questions directed toward the panelists, and followed by a reception for the young girls and the panelists to interact with one another and exchange some ideas.
Oh, that's fantastic. And this is typically held sometime in May.
In early May at the Memorial Art Gallery in the evening. So it's a lovely affair for the girls, too. They get dressed up, enjoy themselves.
And it's a great venue. It's a Memorial
Absolutely.
Art
They don't typically get to go to the Memorial Art Gallery, so this is a great place for them to be entertained.
Yeah. Now, how are the girls invited to the program? I mean, how did they get selected to be a...
There is a huge marketing effort that we launch in March and April. We target schools, directing some mailings towards school counselors, several organizations, also like the Scouts and other groups that work with youth. But I believe we mail, Kathryn, to, what, 6 counties? So we have several thousand invitations that go out to adults who would work with these young girls. And then the adults are the ones we rely on to bring our girls forth.
I see. And how many do you usually have as guests?
200, between 160 and 200 girls. We try to fill that Memorial Art Gallery auditorium to capacity.
Sure.
So we're aiming for that again this year, too.
Now, what's the hook? What makes them come? What makes it a cool thing to do? If you're, you know, a teenager and it's like, why would I want to come?
I think if the adult pitches it well to the girls, it's this opportunity to, first of all, be with other girls their age and meet some successful women. And I do think that that is a hook, in addition to the refreshments. Right? That's always been a big pitch.
Yeah, that's great. And of course, you said like the venue and...
Yes.
And so are the girls encouraged to dress up?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. They come with a chaperone, so I'm hoping that the chaperones will continue to set the tone for it being an evening affair. So they do dress up and they get rides and they come in with their chaperone and register and are ushered to their seats. So it's quite an elegant affair.
Oh, very nice. That's wonderful. Now, you said about the panelists. How many panelists do you have, and what's their background? How have they been involved in the past?
Well, we have actually 2 parts to that. We have past panelists, which Kathryn can discuss, and then the current panelists. So the current panelists this year, we have 5 of them, 5 outstanding women. It's a young panel, I believe, a young, diverse panel. We'll be looking forward to hearing your story with us as one of our panelist members. We have Lashunda Eccles-Smith, who is the owner of Successful Pathways. She herself was a teen parent, so she does a lot of counseling with current teen parents now and working toward economic self-sufficiency ideas with them. We have Joanna Alberti, who's a business owner, young. She's, I think, 27. And she's already formed her own business, has her own very successful website. Very exciting young lady. Frances Salgado Givens, who's got two parts of her life. She's a native Puerto Rican who was educated through Puerto Rico and the United States, and she's a current educator in the Gates Child High Schools. She and her husband also own a Rochester's Choice business, #1 laundromat dry cleaner, I think for 2 years in a row. So we're very excited to have her two-pronged perspective on the way she has managed her life. And we have, we're eager to meet this young lady, Cara Masachi, who is affiliated with the Seneca Park Zoo. We first saw her in the newspaper as a polar bear keeper, but we understand she's also working with several other animals at the zoo as well, and she has a fascinating background to share. So that gives you a little perspective on this year's panelists, and we have so many other people from the past.
And I think the reason that this panelist, to me, is most exciting is it's young.
Yes.
And I think the girls can relate to the younger folks better than some of the older role models that we've had, but they too have been inspirational. Over the last many years, we've had Donna Dede, and Dee Alexander started off as an early Wyoma Best. We've had Betty Pine, who's on the appellate division. We've had lots of, actually, many attorneys. We had Sergeant Cindy Harriet, who now is the highest-ranking police officer in the Rochester Police Department. Last year we had a young woman who I thought the girls were impressed by only because she came in uniform. She was a National Guard member, and she was on duty that particular evening. She too had a two-pronged. She also worked for the Rochester Parks Department. So we've had a variety of young women who I think have been an inspiration. I think for me, going to the event, the most interesting part of the girls' questions, they've been difficult questions for some of the panelists to answer. Some of them have been personal. But these girls really want to know, how did you get where you are, and what kind of choices did you make, and how difficult was your life compared to mine, so that I can relate to making those decisions. So I think it's going to be a real interesting evening.
That's great. It's nice to hear that the girls aren't afraid to ask the questions.
Not at all.
Especially because they're in their peers and they're encouraged to do that.
Yes,
right?
yeah, the line forms at the microphone, and they sometimes ask their question and get right back in line again to come up with another one.
Wonderful. That's terrific. Now, how do you get the panelists? How do you find the women? I mean, some, that you've mentioned from media, so they have the familiar faces and role model from that perspective, so they can come closer to who they see on television. But how do you find your other panelists?
There's a committee that puts ideas forth. So if we have each one of us has quite a vast network. So through our networks, we've brought some names forward, and there's a little criteria sheet that we use, and we examine all of them and select from the ones that the committee has brought forth to see if we can see some differences and yet some similarities among Rochester women. Look for some fascinating backgrounds, women who have indeed perhaps struggled or their family has struggled in order to get to where they are today. So we're looking for that as well, and we want some diversity, some interest as well. So this year's panelists, as Kathryn said, represent a very young population. So we're very excited about that too. So I think we would say that the committee puts forth ideas through networking.
I see. And I think that's one of the power of women and the idea of networking and really making a decision to help each other out through the power of networking instead of just letting it happen by the way, you know. So this is, it's beautiful. It's magnificent. I'm excited to be part of the panel.
You see how fast you said yes when we asked you? Yeah, that's great.
Well, I think, you know, we've been helped along the way by other women, and it's nice to be able to do that for others as well. I think we become stronger when we can help other people, and it's nice to be on the receiving end, but it's wonderful to be a part of helping make the community better. So that's great. We're talking with Kathryn Thomas and Christina Fenton about the Women's Foundation at the Genesee Valley, particularly about Voices of Experience, which is held typically in May at the Memorial Art Gallery here in Rochester. We'll take a quick break.
When foster children are bounced from home to home, they can end up feeling homeless. As a volunteer child advocate, you can help ensure they have a safe, permanent home where they can thrive. CASA, for children.
Does it scare you to know that bed bugs are real? Or that termites cause billions of dollars in property damage? Or that cockroaches and mice contribute to asthma? Well, what should really scare you is not knowing these things. Because when you don't know what you're dealing with, household pests are a lot scarier than they should be. Learn more at pestworld.org.
Thank you for staying with us. I'm Nannette Nocon, and this is It's About Money. We're talking today with Kathryn Thomas and Christina Fenton of the Women's Foundation of the Genesee Valley. We're talking about the Voices of Experience as well. Thank you both for being here. Let's talk about funding of the event of Voices of Experience. How is that funded?
Well, we've been very fortunate and apply for grants to various foundations, and they've been very generous in their support of the event.
Oh, fantastic. So you just make application and complete that. That's fantastic. What happens to the money that's raised from the event? Do the children actually pay to attend? Or?
There is a fee for attending. It's $5 or $20 for one adult and one student, but $40 if you bring 5 students. However, there's plenty of scholarship money available. So if people would like to attend and don't have the means, not a problem.
Okay, that's fantastic. And what happens to the money that's raised?
Well, I think this is one of the more exciting parts of the program. Is we have a girls grant making committee as well as the women's grant making committee within the foundation. And the girls grant making committee works with a mentor. The girls that participate in that are a diverse group of girls. Hopefully some of them will decide to participate as a result of the Voices of Experience. And then the girls do the same thing that the women do with their grants, is that they review them, and there's a very strict criteria how they're reviewed. They review them, they do their site visits, they do their own questions, and then they come back as a group and make a decision about which grants they're going to grant. And not always are they the same decisions that the women have made, which is always very interesting.
And do they come up with a grantee afterwards that has to be a common decision, or is there a separate award for the girls and a separate award for the women?
Well, there can be a separate award for the girls.
I see.
If they don't, if it's not the same one that the women, fortunately in the last several years they have been the same. So that means that the grants that the women get increased because the girls have decided to give their money to the same organization.
And what type of organizations would they be like?
Well, this past year, the girls funded a program in Wayne County that, excuse me, is sponsored by the Catholic Charities, and it is in 7 schools in Wayne County, and it's called College Bound. And it's for boys and girls, but we only fund the girls' portion of their program. And the program, I think, is fascinating because it takes juniors and seniors in high school, helps them with the whole process, filling out SAT applications. If they don't have the money to apply with the SAT, they supply that. They help them with financial aid forms. They take them to visit colleges, and then they help them with the application process. They have had 100% return of those girls that have applied, go to college,
Nice.
and they follow them through the first year, and that too has had a very high percentage of the girls staying in school. And these usually are girls that are coming from families that would not encourage them to go to college in the first place. So it's very exciting that the girls have chosen that program. The other program that they chose is from the Society to Protect Children, and they fund a young teens program there that help young teens with children. And that program, I believe, is for 17 to 21-year-olds to take their girls, to help them make decisions about how to get their GED, how to plan to support their family.
That's powerful.
It
It's
is
so powerful. Because if you imagine if education is what makes a difference with regard to the amount of wages, salary that the girls earn over time, and if they're not able to continue their education, then it becomes a hindrance to their personal success, you know. So it's wonderful that those programs have been selected.
Well, for me, the wonderful part is that the girls get to go out in the community and visit these programs and realize that their dollars will have a tremendous impact.
That's great. Oh, it's a wonderful circle.
It is, yes.
Because I could see how the girls who come to the program learn how to progress themselves, but then they go out and find other ways to extend that grace that they got from having attended the program. That's fantastic. Now, who serves on the Girls Grant Making Committee? How were they chosen?
There's an application process, and they will receive an application. Our audience at Voices of Experience will receive an application, each one of them, that evening. And there will be a mentioning of it in our program so that the girls in that audience are encouraged to apply. And from that application process, girls are selected. We have girls on the committee right now. So from that application process, we may recruit some more, and the cycle continues.
And someone from the Girls Grant Making Committee will be at Voices and speak about their experience and to encourage the girls to apply.
I see. Very nice. That's great. It's really a very strong organization, and the structure sounds really good to encourage girls to be a part of it. Now, do you usually get a lot of applicants from the audience?
Not a lot of applicants. Some.
Yeah, not as many as we would like. I think girls are intimidated by the whole process, for one thing. It shouldn't be. It's a great experience because they have the support of one another to go through that process. And I think for young girls particularly, they can make some good decisions about their own lives through this process.
Yes, that's
so
what you were talking about, that cycle.
Yeah,
well, we're going to hit it hard, though, this year, right, Kathryn? we have a very vigorous committee. I think we'll be there that night and encourage the girls to really consider applying for this.
Oh, very nice. Now, you have information on your website about the Voices of Experience.
womensfoundation.org. You can download the invitation for the event. So if there's any counselors or organization advisors that are interested in further details, with an invitation and a little form to fill out and mail back to us, feel free to go to the website to look for that. And our phone number is on there on the website as well.
Okay, so it's womensfoundation.org.
Yes.
Okay.
And the number is 242-0940.
2420940.
Yes.
Very good. Now, I have a question about the money part. I mean, you have given a lot of grants over the years and have quite a bit in your endowment. Tell me a little bit more about that, Kathryn.
Well, the endowment, fortunately, because of the market, the last few years has been able to grow significantly, as well as our donors that contribute to the endowment. We have about $1,800,000 in the endowment, and over the last 12 years, we've given over $100,000 to the community. This year's grants probably will be in the neighborhood of $75,000. The women's grants, because of our research, we have made the decision to give fewer grants with larger dollars. So our grants are about $10,000 that we give. Our impact, hopefully, is stronger as a result of that. And I think we make the announcement of our grants at an annual community breakfast. And that breakfast is usually held at the Hyatt. It's in October. There's no charge to come to the breakfast, and it's a wonderful breakfast. It's a sit-down breakfast. The program is our grants. Our program is the girls participate in the breakfast, announcing their grants. The women do the same thing. There's usually a program, and a program consists of one of our grantees. And their stories are very powerful as to what impact all these programs on these women and girls have had.
That's great. It's nice to have the breakfast available without the need of, for financial concern about, gee, do I want to get involved or not? That's great. That's really fantastic. Is there anything else that I may have missed asking about the foundation?
Well, the foundation is made up of individual donors, and I feel strongly, I think one of my legacies at the end of my term will be every woman has the ability to be a donor, whether it's only $5 a year. It's important for women to feel that we can take care of one another.
That's great. Those are great seeds. Yeah, wonderful to plant them. Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate having both of you here at our show.
Well,
You're welcome.
thank you.
We'll look forward to your feedback after your first Voices experience.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Right. So our guests today are Kathryn Thomas and Christina Fenton from the Women's Foundation of the Genesee Valley. I hope you were able to pick up some good information and encourage young girls to attend and check out the website, womensfoundation.org. So it's womensfoundation.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Nannette Nocon. Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you have any questions for It's About Money, please email Nannette at nnocon@aol.com. This program was produced through Penfield Community Television in Penfield, New York.